What's something stupid you used to do in middle school to be cool? I wrote all the Green Day albums on my bag as a checklist and gradually ticked them to show I had them all. I didn't have them all. I did this too. I had a really cute backpack and proceeded to ruin it by taking a Sharpie and writing the names of all the bands I liked all over it. I thought I was going to look so cool with my backpack covered in obscure punk band names. In reality, no one gave a shit and I just ended up ruining a really nice backpack. I had to eventually give it away because no amount of washing would get the Sharpie out and I couldn't wear it without looking like some lammy 14-year-old. This is not as bad as my friend who went through an emo phase in 10th grade and proceeded to waste about 3 of those big black markers with the metal barrels coloring her backpack black. Because her mom wouldn't buy her a black one, it left black ink on everything and looked gross and streaky as hell. And she ended up tossing it because it was off-gassing marker fumes. Wore my backpack straps as low as they could possibly go. The bag would slap against the back of my legs every step, but I didn't care cause I was the shit. In middle school, I never caught on that everybody did this. I wore my backpack up tight right behind my shoulders. One day somebody laughed at me and called me a nerd for wearing my backpack so high. And then I joined the club. Nerd who wears their backpack the way it's intended to be worn. Wear an upside down backwards to the left yellow visor with my bleached peroxide hair gelled up. I had a mullet. Listened to DJ Quick. Wore a Ghost Rider t-shirt all the time. And called everyone Kemosabe. I used to spike my hair to look like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. Later on I realized I looked like a douche. Sold off my dad's porn. Seriously. Found a bunch of old nudie mags in the basement. Ended up selling them out of my locker a page at a time. Worked great until I made the mistake of selling a page to the special needs kid, who immediately showed it to his fundamentalist parents. I suppose a bigger mistake was to get caught doing it again the next year. I'd wear 2 pairs of pants. Normally basketball shorts under jeans. If you ask me, then I'd swear it was because it was more comfortable. But really I just thought I was the shit. I did this sometimes because people kept pantsing me. There was this one kid who got his pants and boxers pulled off and I was scared. Had that happened to a kid I went to school with. After that everyone called him Millimeter Peter. This happened at track practice in high school. Doing warm-ups in the center of the stadium. Kid gets pantsed. He doesn't care. Stands there in the middle of the football field in his boxers like a champ until someone pantsed his boxers. It was a bit cold that day. People made fun of my voice, so I started trying to speak in a lower tone, which backfired almost immediately. My gym teacher referred to me as Kermit the Frog for years. Kinda funny, but what a dick. I hated all my gym teachers. Pay is the birthplace of awful nicknames. I knew a guy named Clay that we all called Dirt. There was a guy we called Shaggy. I don't even remember his real name now, but he gained the nickname Cockroach in middle school pet. Not sure if it was for the same reason, but in middle school, I acquired the nickname of Cockroach after a tall black boy peeked over the divider between the urinals we were using and saw my weenie. When I was in 6th grade, I learned that the girl I had a crush on was coming to dinner with some family friends of ours. I wanted to do something to impress her, to make her think I was really smart. I knew at some point she'd probably be in my room as it's where the kids generally congregated during these sorts of things, so I began to set the stage. At the time, I was all about dumpster diving and hitting up yard sales with my other nerd friends to build shitty Frankenstein rigs with the components we salvaged or picked up on the cheap. So naturally I gathered all my mild spare and broken hard drives, poured dish soap all over them, and got the hammer out at the ready. When they entered my room, I made sure I was furiously smashing the shit out of these drives with my hammer. Tiny metallic pieces and soapsuds flying everywhere. We made eye contact for a moment before she and her friend slowly backed out of the room. She avoided me for the remainder of the evening. All these years later, I can still remember the look of horror and confusion on her face. I can't for the life of me remember what series of thoughts lead me to believe there would be any possibility of her having a positive reaction to it. The pubescent mind is an interesting thing. I wore fingerless gloves for an entire day and tried to play it off as weight gloves. However, the little tyke screen logo was very visible. The cringe is real. Draw random marks on myself, so people thought I got into a flirty pen fight with the girls. There were 2 girls who would always draw on me during science. I would get so mad because my mom would get mad when I'd come home with marks all over both arms. And other boys would get really angry or jealous about it, and it just did not click for me. Turns out I'm gay as a bag of dicks. Though, yes, there were several instances of girls doing strange things to me. One would dig into my arm with her nails. Growing up, and I never thought anything of it. Meanwhile, there was a kid who would harass me constantly, but not only did I put up with him, I actively wanted to be friends with him. Not to mention this kid in my class that barely knew me, and while I couldn't bring myself to actually try to be friends with him, I excitedly said hi every time I saw him, even if it had only been like 10 minutes. So yeah, turns out I'm really gay and didn't realize boys could have crushes on other boys, and that girls do weird shit when they like you. I wore a hideous plaid suit jacket from the 70s that I found in the back of my dad's closet. I thought it was hilarious in a so ugly it's cool kind of way. I probably just seemed desperate for attention. Had a pretty righteous wave of extreme yo-yo that swept through during 7th grade. And by extreme I mean a bunch of kids getting excited over who could make their yo-yo sleep the longest. Yo-yo was all the rage at my middle school too. I actually got pretty good, and it still makes me happy that if I ever stumble across one I can nonchalantly rock the cradle and then go back to whatever I was doing. Same shit with Rubik's cubes. Haven't touched one in a few years, but when I do come across them it's tight af. Sort of relevant. When I was in middle school I took all the stickers off of a Rubik's cube, but put them back on, right, so that it looked like I had completed it. I carried it around with me in front of girls, but they didn't seem to notice. There was a boy I had a crush on when I was in 7th grade. After a class field trip one day, a lot of people got really sunburned. When we were changing classes, I overheard him talking about how sunburned he was afterward. I thought it'd be a good conversation starter, since I was so sunburned too. So an hour later, when we changed classes again, I went up to him and said, "Hey Chris, look at this sunburn," and pulled up my shirt sleeve to show the back of my shoulder. He looked at me really strange and went, "Okay, yeah, that's nice," and went back to his conversation with his friends. For the rest of the year, I kept getting sunburned intentionally so I'd have a talking point with him, and kept going up to him. "Hey, what about this sunburn? It's pretty bad now, huh?" On top of that, I have such a fair complexion. I don't even tan, so I'd just burn, get embarrassed, and go back to being really white. Heh, I feel you. I was also a really awkward girl in those ages. There was a boy in elementary school that I had a huge crush on. We were actually good friends, and we hung out together all the time. But I had a huge crush, and I thought it wasn't mutual, because a lot of girls liked him, and he had lots of girlfriends, you know. The elementary school sort of girlfriends, and I was this awkward ugly duckling at the time. So one day, when we are hanging out, he looks at me, very serious, and says, You know, of all of the girlfriends I had, I like you best. And I get stressed and say, but I'm not your girlfriend. Yeah. I went home and told my mom, who knew how much I liked him, and she just facepalmed. I used to keep my afro pick in my hair. I'm a curly haired Arab boy. Chain wallets. It started off with short chains. Eventually, it became an unspoken contest to see who could have the longest chain. I flipped over the handlebars of my bike many times when that damn chain got wrapped around the pedal. I worked at a hardware store where you could get various sizes of chain, cut to whatever length. I remember getting a large link about 3 feet long to try and look cool. Horrible. I made a belt like this with a master lock to clip it. I'm sure I'm too late for this thread, but why not share anyway? My family moved around a lot when I was a kid, so I was perpetually the new kid at school. As a result, I did all sorts of things to stand out and make an impression, so people wouldn't just know me as the new kid anymore. In 4th or 5th grade, I decided slapstick comedy was my forte and developed a routine wherein I wrapped my arm around the back of my head, grabbing my chin. I then slingshot my arm back around my head and slapped myself in the face. I hope I'm not confusing anyone with my description of my routine. It becomes important later. The kids in my class loved it, and I had no idea they were laughing at me, not with me, but it didn't really matter. They always wanted me to do the arm slingshot, and every time my pudgy pre-adolescent palm made contact with my cheek, I was rewarded with roars of laughter. I was a god. It wasn't long after that when my mom noticed my chin had been inexplicably grape colored for several days. After realizing it wasn't a stain, she began interrogating me as to what trauma I had undergone to experience such severe chin bruising. Being an absolute fucking idiot, I didn't make the connection between the bruise on my chin and the gorilla-like grip I held it in every time I did my slingshot routine. After assuring my mom that I hadn't fallen or been hit by anyone, she figured I just forgot whatever had happened and ignored it, at least for a week or two, when my chin had still not begun to heal and had in fact gotten even worse. My mom decided it was time to go to the doctor. At the doctor's office, I again assured the medical professional that nothing had happened to me that would cause my chin to have such severe bruising. It was concluded that the problem was likely internal, and I'd have to undergo a wide range of blood testing. The doctor had never seen inexplicably purple chins before, and wanted to test me for a long list of ailments. I don't remember most of them, but I do remember my mom's reaction when leukemia was uttered, as I watched my mom break down in tears at the thought of her oldest son facing a disease that doctors didn't even understand. Where leukemia was one of the doctor's best guesses for what could be happening. I knew what I had to do. I had to cheer her up. I had to make her laugh. Mom, don't cry. Watch this. I gleefully pleaded as I reached my right arm up, tucked my head into the pit of my elbow, and grasped my chin with all my might. I gripped it harder than I ever had, so that this slingshot would be the most powerful and funniest one I'd ever done. I released my grip and slapped myself in the face, like I'd done thousands of times before. I looked up to find the doctor staring at me like I was an idiot, and my mother with a look that was a mix of supreme relief and intense shame. My mom apologized profusely for wasting the doctor's time, who had to tell me, as many schoolyard bullies might, to stop hitting myself. Wasn't me, but when I was in middle school we had the group who considered themselves the thugs. They weren't that bad. They were pretty much the class clowns that you also didn't want to fuck with. Well, I remember in 6th grade, I went into the bathroom only to find them kicking one of the guys on the floor counting to 30 while the guy on the floor laughed. When it was over they congratulated him and welcomed him into their group. Yup, so cool. Well, it's not something I did to be cool, but to fit in and seem more normal. I used to pack my own lunch when I was a kid because my mom couldn't be bothered with it. And it really hurt my feelings when other kids would complain about how their moms never got it right and would pack the wrong stuff. So I would pack the only things we had in the fridge and pretend to be upset when my mom would get it wrong and put the diet pudding in instead of the regular stuff. In reality I did it on purpose, so people thought my mom cared enough to pack my lunch too. I didn't just want to fit in. I wanted to blend in. In my middle school, wearing name brand clothes, the kind where everyone can see the logo, was cool for some reason. The two big brands were Echo and South Pole. Problem was, these clothes were expensive, and my single parent household wasn't exactly well off. So everyone made fun of me because all I had was second-hand clothes, often too small for me. My mom conceded to buying me one South Pole t-shirt. I wore that shirt literally every day. People still made fun of me. I learned a lot from that experience. I wore shorts every day. It's raining and freezing cold outside? Doesn't matter. I'm wearing shorts. Well duh, why wouldn't you? I mean, they are both comfy and easy to wear. Damn it, Joey, nobody gives a fuck about your Rattata. I'll have you know that Joey's Rattata is in the top percentage of Rattata and has been involved in numerous secret raids on Team Rocket and has over 300 confirmed KOs. He is trained with a lucky egg and is the top Hyperfang user in the entire Johto League. You are nothing to him, but just another target. Joey's Rattata will wipe you the fuck out with accuracy the likes of which has never been seen before on this earth. Mark my fucking words. You think you can get away with saying that shit to him over the internet? Think again. Fucker. As we speak, he is contacting his secret network of spies across the USA and your IP is being traced right now. So you better prepare for the rain dance. Weedle. The rain dance that wipes out the pathetic little thing you call your life. You're fucking dead. Kid. He can be anywhere. Anytime. And he can kill you in over 700 ways. And that's just with his teeth. Not only is he extensively trained with EVs, but he has access to the entire arsenal of the Goldonra department store and he will use it to its full extent to wipe your miserable ass off the face of the continent. You little shit. If only you could have known what unholy retribution your little clever comment was about to bring down upon you. Maybe you would have held your fucking tongue. But you couldn't. You didn't. And now you're paying the price. You got him, idiot. Joey's Rattata will sand attack all over you and you faint to it. You're fucking dead. Kiddo. Used to bring universal remotes to school and turn off the TVs when teachers tried to show videos to fuck with them. Brought little remote control race cars and put cups over them and drove them around on the floor to scare people who thought it was a rodent. Oh, and JNCO's pants.